there is coming a day in which the ultimate clash of good and evil will focus on Israel. And this time, unlike the first century, God is going to reveal his glory. He's going to defeat the nations that came against Jerusalem. And we read in Zechariah chapter 12 that in that battle, the weakest among them will be like David in their prime, and they will go out and fight those nations. We read it's going to lead to their defeat, and that when Israel sees this defeat, they will look upon him whom they've pierced, Zechariah 12:10, and they will mourn for him. There will be a fountain opened up for the cleansing of Israel and the nations. And we read of the defeat of the nations in Zechariah chapter 14, that when they invade Israel and surround Jerusalem, Yeshua will return, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, the Mount of Olives will be split, and then the Lord will go forth and fight those nations. And after their utter defeat, Zechariah 14, the glory of God will be revealed to all nations, and all nations will send their representatives year after year to celebrate the feast of Sukkot. Isn't that amazing? All nations will celebrate the feast. The kingdom of God will come in fullness on the earth. Israel is an instrument of God's sovereignty over the nations. But what is the connection of this fulfillment in Israel to you? Are you just bystanders? Are you just those who are going to just watch it all happen? I remember being raised in a particular understanding of theology where this really has very little to do with Christians, or even Messianic Jews who are believing at this time, because we're all going to be raptured out of this earth, and we're not going to play any role in these last days events because we're gone out of here. I don't want to offend anybody. I was raised with that view and believed it till I was 19 years old. And I only had one problem with this view. I really wanted to prove it to be true, but I learned to look at the text of the Bible in context, and I couldn't find this to be really taught in the Bible. And then I found that nobody taught it before 1840. Indeed, the Bible teaches that for Israel to fulfill its destiny, its irrevocable calling is a witness people, intercessory people, is dependent upon the role of Gentiles. And that before all of Israel is saved, and before they call on Jesus and cry out to him to save them, which is going to be part of what happens when he comes, and they say, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord," Matthew 23:39, there's going to be a growing saved remnant of Israel that together with the Gentiles from all nations has a sufficient witness to the Jewish people to prepare them to embrace Jesus for their ultimate deliverance. So, Paul says in verse 11, "I'm speaking to you who are Gentiles, and as an apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify my ministry if I may provoke to jealousy my own flesh and blood and save some of them. For if their rejection is the reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? If the first fruits, the Jewish believers, is holy, so is the whole batch of dough. The rest of the Jewish nation is sanctified," he says here, "by those that have embraced Jesus." We Jewish believers in Jesus are the sanctifying remnant for the rest of the nation that prove that Israel still counts and make that calling and election effective. So Paul says that Gentiles are supposed to have the kind of witness to the Jewish people that with the Jewish remnant, like the Apostle Paul who was Jewish, we will see more and more Jewish people saved, which is part of what leads up to Israel's confession of Jesus and his coming, and that those who are from the nations have this calling to show love and mercy to the Jewish people and to see a growing number saved, and through intercession and witness and love, we play a role in the salvation of Israel. Paul says, just as you were at one time disobedient to God, but have now been shown mercy because of their disobedience. Verse 31, in the same manner, these also have now been disobedient, with the result that because of the mercy shown you, they may be shown mercy. Now, one of my favorite movies in recent years is The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings gives an analogy that is the perfect analogy of the relationship between Jew and Gentile, and the call of the Gentiles, the believers in Jesus, to see Israel fulfill her destiny. All who are in Jesus, Jew and Gentile, are called to see the nation of Israel fulfill their destiny. But the Gentiles are very much like a character in The Lord of the Rings, and the Jews are like a character in The Lord of the Rings because the Jews are very much like Frodo. Think about Frodo. He is the quintessential Jew. He's conflicted. He struggles. He has a destiny that he has to fulfill. And he can't fulfill it. So this Jewish character, Frodo, has a Gentile friend whose name is Sam. And Sam says to Frodo, "Don't worry, Mr. Frodo, I'll carry you." And if you remember the story, Sam carries Frodo to be able to throw that ring in and to fulfill his destiny and destroy the kingdom of darkness. That's it. That's the call of Christians from all nations to not only share the gospel with their nation and the nations of the world, but to provoke Israel to jealousy and to carry Israel so that she might fulfill her destiny, so that Jesus would return and that the nations would come into the kingdom of God and the veil would be removed over all nations and that great feast would take place from Mount Sinai for all peoples of the earth. From Mount Zion to all peoples of the earth. Are you with me? So Israel has these three callings. If you get this and you see this as the plan of God, you understand why the deception of the devil is so great that the LGBT woke movement would be partnering with Hamas. Doesn't make any sense unless you understand spiritual warfare and spiritual blindness.